Hello, and welcome to this episode of CyberCast. I'm your host, Sylvia Oakland, a staff writer for GovCIO Media and Research. At the Special Competitive Studies Project's AI Expo, I caught up with Oak Ridge National Lab's Edmon Begoli. We chatted about ORML's research, upcoming projects, and of course, AI. Take a listen. Edmon, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you making the time to speak with me here at the AI Expo.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm glad to be here and talk with you, of course.
Well, why don't we just give our audience a little bit of a brief intro of who you are and what you do. The last time we saw you, we were at our AI Fed Lab.
So again, my name is Edmon Begoli. I am from Oak Ridge National Lab, and I lead CAISER Center for AI Security Research at the lab. I'm its founding director. And I'm here with my colleague Amir Sadovnik and the ORNL group and DOE at the AI Expo. But anyway, I'm a director of Center for Security Research.
And the last time we talked, you, me, and Amir all had a really great conversation about what AI security kind of means. So what has been happening over at CAISER?
A lot. And you know, I keep saying this to my colleagues. So we started CAISER years ago. At that time, it was called Resilient AI for Defense, because we realized many years ago that AI is going to pick up in a public and government and federal and defense domains. And there's all kinds of issues related to the vulnerabilities and lack of robustness and all that. And for years, we've been talking about all that and working on R&D and implementing things, but it all sounded like we are a little bit like a cuckoo visionaries, like living in some kind of far world there and talking about stuff that most people can, that's really interesting. And then when we spoke, things started solidifying. People start understanding that and observing that AI is becoming integrated into every aspect of the life, and of course for the government, for defense, and so on. What has happened in the last year, we have made some major advancements, which I can tell you more about if you're interested, but at the same time, we got a lot more attention from the various different partners that work with Oak Ridge National Lab, including lab itself. Quite a few interesting things have happened. And the reason I'm talking about this, 3 years ago, Cuckoo used to be a small group of people speaking to a small group of others who understood what we were doing. Now we have gotten much more attention than before. Let's put it that way. And that's good. But the thing that makes me the most actually excited and interested is the things that we're doing at CAISER, actually, because we are an R&D shop with an applied, mission-oriented strategy that we do want to make a difference in real applications, but we are an R&D shop. I mean, we do active research, lots of it is applied, lots of it is experimental, there's lots of engineering, but it's about innovation and research.
Yeah, what do some of those research projects look like? Like, what are maybe one or two that you are really excited about?
Yes. So I'm going to have to start a little bit academically and then bring it down to the applications, okay? I can reverse it, but I'll start academically. So it's AI vulnerability research. That's one area that is our specialty. In software, I actually did not know that this field exists up until 7 years ago, AI software vulnerability research. And what it means when you see things like Google Chrome, bug bounties, when there's like a hole in the Chrome and you need to immediately patch it, there's all kinds of vulnerabilities. There's a number of researchers who do in-depth research trying to understand what are the vulnerabilities in software. Well, we are the group that does the same thing for AI. And I'll come back to applications where it truly matters. Okay. Then it's the end-to-end security assessment. And then there's AI evaluations at scale. Okay. Practically what this means. First, we still don't fully understand how AI models make decisions that they do. It's just by the nature of how the models are built and trained. We definitely don't understand all the vulnerabilities, and we have to understand these vulnerabilities in order to say we can safely deploy AI in some kind of defense system that's going to protect public events from drones or something like that. So imagine somebody wanting to say, we're going to build AI-based defenses for the Olympic Games or World Cup or something like that against some rogue drones. Well, we want to do that, but we also need to understand when will that AI not function or where will somebody try to defeat it. Okay, so that's where we do lots of work in this vulnerability research. What is AI vulnerability? Okay, end-to-end security. That's another. And again, the reason why I'm talking about this end-to-end security is because, like I said, it sounds academic until it hits the reality. This is one of those things, like I was saying earlier, like 3 years ago, this all sounded a little bit far-fetched, and in the reality hits. When you really want to defend, let's say that you have a automatic surveillance system placed at a critical infrastructure that is detecting if somebody's trying to do something harmful. When you look at state-of-the-art counter AI, many of that is about defeating models. But somebody can also do a cyber attack against a camera or AI and defeat it. Somebody can do something to hardware. Somebody can do something to data. All that needs to be taken into consideration to make AI secure. We are one of the leaders in this field that we are kind of developing, publishing papers, running experiments, how to do this A to Z security assessment. And then finally, AI security assessments at scale. We have a tool called Photon, which we're getting ready to release, which runs at the exascale, which means runs on this massive computer at thousands of GPUs. Reason why this is important is, let's say that you're evaluating, again, going back to this scenario of having automated infrastructure protection AI. Well, there's 3-4 models, there may be 20, 30 different models. It takes human months and months and months and months to do the assessment and analysis. We want to be able, you really don't have months and months and months to evaluate 100 products. It will take 5 years to do all of that. And let's say that you need to deploy something in a month. So we need to do this at scale. And so we're developing these frameworks where you can do that at scale using the high performance computing infrastructure. And related to that, we have 2 primary tools. One was released, published in a couple of defense magazines called Lantern. This is for developing these vulnerability research assessments. Photon is the one that's going to be released in the next few months, and that is for running things at scale. And then we have a large number of researchers. We have lots of federal partners who came to us and worked with us, Department of Homeland Security, Air Force Research Lab, DARPA, and so on. So lots of good things have happened in the last year.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, like, what federal agencies were kind of coming to you for these resources, especially, there are so many different use cases in the federal government right now. I mean, there are a handful of agencies that have released AI chatbots. There are some that are just trying to figure out, how. I think a part that gets a little sticky, at least from my perspective, is using AI for cybersecurity or security, but then also ensuring that AI itself is secure.
Yes.
And do you mind kind of talking about what that might look like?
So as I said, it's in terms of agencies, many. And I'm happy to say this because it tells me that our federal sector is visionary enough to see that this is a pressing need. So there's many I can think of, but the one that are well known is that we have active relationship with Department of Homeland Security, with Air Force Research Lab. Of course, we work with DOE and support DOE in multiple different capacities and so on and on. But as you brought up, this is really astute observation that you made. There is a AI, for instance, for cybersecurity, where you're enabling cybersecurity tools, but then you also need to protect AI itself. And so in terms of what we do in this particular context is that we do basic research first to understand theoretically what are the vulnerabilities of AI. But then also we develop test beds. So we have a testing and evaluation environment at RNL called CAISER labs, where we can take some of these models and put them in a contested setting. We simulate contested setting in terms of somebody wants to do something against those models. Test how well will they perform under those conditions. And it can be malicious data, malware, AI exploitation. These tools I mentioned, Lantern and Photon, we use them for those purposes. And then also running contained environments. So whatever we do, that's well understood. And then we, of course, communicate securely any exploits that have been potentially detected to our partners and so on. Because again, you don't want those things publicly released. You first want to let either industry or government agency know if you have discovered something. But it's really a full spectrum of things. Like I said, basic research, applied research, testing, evaluation, and to be honest with you, training and public outreach. We give lots of talks. Amir and I have been involved with from high schools and senior citizens where we're giving talk, and the good thing is to see that we had interest by senior citizens and by high school kids. And then at the universities and with the federal workforce and so on. And of course, we teach at universities, and so it's kind of full spectrum. It keeps us very busy. I mean, we are not like a super large organization. We try not to be too big. It's more important with quality over quantity. I keep saying that, but that's all we do.
I mean, that has been a through line of this conference, is that we as a collective need to get more people educated and involved in AI, whether that's, just learning that AI is not going to take over jobs. It's going to help modernize some of those systems that are cumbersome, that none of us really like to go through. And that there are some really big potential use cases that all of this can change.
To be honest with you, not only they're big, but they are kind of essential, mandatory. If we don't, we have to delegate certain tasks to AI in order to scale what we need to, what must be done. We don't have enough people to do certain kinds of things that have to be done. So yeah, and I use this term, AI literacy. You're asking me excellent questions. I have to say this because excellent questions and making excellent observations. The reason why I say this is because, sometimes I go to conferences when there's an AI talk. There's like thousands of people attending, but frequently people just hear they need AI ML and they don't understand what does it even mean. Not even what I do see. An increase already literacy and understanding where things fit and how should they work, which is really great to see, because I do believe the reason why I'm in AI security is because I do believe in adopting AI in the right places. I do believe that AI can play an essential role in society. It just needs to be done in a safe, secure, and reliable way. That's all it is. And so education is a big part of it.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's why I really do like coming to these conferences. And I was really excited to come and hear you speak this morning and to speak with you here. So how does all of what we've talked about so far kind of relate to what you presented in your panel today?
I am right now pursuing two parallel, intersecting, but also parallel paths. So I lead our Center for Security Research. CAISER is a wonderful organization. I love it. It is a non-egotistical. I'm not the big giant head behind it, does all the decisions. Amir is a fantastic research lead. There's a number of other individuals that work in the center. So it's a really group of enthusiasts, deeply technical people who do really good work, and that the advancing state of AI security research and applications. I am also pursuing this research we start calling it TinyML. TinyML is a very specific framework, but we call it this extreme AI for extremely small environments. And that's what my talk is about. Because we have, on one way, mainstream trend, which is okay. I mean, that's where the state of the world is the developing large data centers, training very large models, investing a lot into GPU resources and energy infrastructure and all that, and it enables this super powerful, capable, large language model based networks that can do all kinds of super impressive things. I can tell an anecdote how much I was impressed recently by something, because I used to teach, and I still teach, natural language processing and LLMs, and I've been teaching them honestly for the last, I think, almost 10 years. So many of these things were not surprised to me in terms of how they're built. But what I think surprised us all is how well they work. Right. And I still get myself surprised how well certain things work. However, what I started pursuing for the last year and a half, and it's taking off, which is again a good thing to see that there is a astuteness within the system I live in. Very small, very energy efficient machine learning models, because that is what's needed to apply and deploy in the right settings. If you think about edge sensors, robotics, intelligent, the systems of various kind of, autonomous systems and so on. You can't really put massive GPU banks on those kinds of systems and hook up, massive energy power. You need to operate in a very energy efficient environment. And so our advancements that we have made in reducing models to fit into very, very, very small sizes. I mean, they're incredibly small models, and yet they can still perform functions as good as their big counterparts that they're derived from. We have some real breakthroughs. I keep talking about those things because it's just exciting, and it's still a pretty small community that is growing in terms of adoption and working with us. So that's really, like I said, it's a part of the CAISER's mission just because of the security applications. If you think about drones that are performing security mission, again, protecting critical infrastructure, they need AI in them. That AI needs to be efficient, or if you're doing some kind of environmental surveillance in terms of toxins or who knows what, and you want some sensor embedded somewhere that can sit and exist for 10 years without being interrupted. You need AI that is energy efficient, that is small, that can sit there and perform for a long time. And so
we heard from like the Starlink project and a couple of other like state and local governments are building data centers. They're trying to figure out, how do we make space for and have enough resources for what AI needs, whether that's land, whether that's water. And this kind of sounds like what you're researching can kind of help with that as well.
Yes.
Like figuring out a way to scale up, but also scale down.
Yes, and to give you an example, you will use big data centers to develop very potent AI models. But then if you want to use this model in a autonomous setting of some kind, put it on some kind of surveillance drone. Again, let's look at this, case study of protecting Olympic Games in 3 years from now. Okay, you've seen examples of drones being used in a creative or whatever way, and who says that that somebody may not try to do something wrong? So we want to take and have a very intelligent drones that can detect threats and prevent wrong things from happening. Well, these drones cannot run the level of power that data centers are producing, but they want to have an AI that these data centers are producing. So these techniques that we use, these TinyML techniques, we take a very large model and shrink it, reduce it, and reduce its power. So A, it solves the problem that has to be solved, and B, it does solve the global problem in terms of we cannot use the same energy infrastructure for everything.
Right.
So it kind of helps reduce the power and helps reduce the energy usage.
And that really sounds like an incredible, just hearing about that, I think will also, ease a lot of people's minds, because increasingly as we hear about AI growing, there are increasing concerns about its environmental impact, the security impact of it. There are just so many different concerns and opportunities with AI for what it can do, right? And I think that kind of brings me to the last question that I have for you, which is what is next at CAISER? Like, what are some things that are going to be coming? It's hard to believe that we are 6 months into the year already, but looking to the end of the year and onward.
Yeah. So let's say over the next 6 to 10 months, we have a number of exciting programs already in place that federal agencies have entrusted us to support them. Our goal is to be one of the number one places in the world, especially in the United States, because our function is, a colleague of mine recently, we had a meeting and he was talking about the functions of the national labs, and that is to ensure nation's prosperity and nation security, okay? And so in terms of AI security, that's our primary goal, to ensure that AI that we put in place, that we need to use for mission critical purposes, is safe, secure, and reliable. It's the development of the state-of-the-art lab where we can do testing and evaluation of the models that DOE needs, the DoD needs, the DHS needs, and so on. So that's one goal, is to have a very advanced, we already have components, but we want to have a formal lab for testing and evaluation of the models under most severe circumstances. B, frameworks and tools to do that, and it can be commercially available, open source or something we custom developed. And then the C is this research and education mission, that everything we learn, we transfer back to public, transfer back to federal agencies or industry through workshops, events, publications, tools that we develop, and so on. The primary goal is to be top-notch lab in the service of the national needs. That's really what it is, and to spread knowledge as far as we can within our partner agencies.
Yeah, I was going to say there's been a lot of discussion of partnerships here, specifically at this conference, whether it's interagency, whether it's between, Oak Ridge and another lab, just making sure that this knowledge is securely shared with the correct partners and we can advance what we need to advance because as we've heard again throughout this conference that there is a need for us to stay ahead and even in some way to get ahead of our competitors.
Best equivalent of what are we trying to do would be imagine that 20 years ago, I keep saying this, 20 years ago, before cyber became a problem it is today, that somebody came about and says, listen, we're going to be developing networks and internet and interconnected systems and all that. We need to pay attention to everything we developed is secure so that we can safely use internet and email and all those things so that we enjoy all the wonderful technology and that we stay ahead of threats and adversaries without us being compromised and open. That's what we want to do with AI, with CAISER. Rather than 10 years from now realize, this AI is so cool, but boy, I'm afraid of anything because phishing and malware and ransomware and all those kinds of things. We want to create AI that is available to the citizens and to the government agencies, that is trusted, secure, reliable, and it gives us an advantage where we want to have.
Edmon, thank you so much for joining me again. This has been a great discussion, and I look forward to catching up with you again.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.